Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to be talking about losing body fat, okay? So I want you to focus your attention up on this scale here. We have 3 different situations which will dictate our body weight or body composition. So firstly, we can either lose weight, B, maintain weight, or C, gain weight. Now, the main thing which dictates our body composition or body weight, calories in versus calories out, also known as energy in versus energy out, okay? Now, everyone will have their own caloric requirements personal to them, but for the example of this video, we'll use my own. So, for instance, if I want to maintain my current body weight, I need to consume my maintenance calories. So, by me simply consuming 3,000 calories every day, I will stay at the same body weight. But on the other end of the spectrum, if I want to lose weight, I need to be placed in what's called a calorie deficit. And this is really important, okay? So I'm going to circle it. So weight loss or fat loss will simply not occur if you're not in a calorie deficit, okay? Regardless of what cardio methods you follow or what diet you're following, it simply will not work if you're not in a calorie deficit. So remember that, hence why I've circled it, because that's the fundamental key principle behind fat loss, okay? So anyway, so for me to be in a calorie deficit, by definition, I need to consume less than my maintenance calories. So my maintenance calories are 3,000, then for me to be placed in a calorie deficit, I could consume 2,400 calories every day. That would put me in a caloric deficit of 600 calories. Therefore, over time, weight loss would occur. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, if I want to gain weight, I need to be eating in what's known as a calorie surplus. So again, by definition, I need to consume more than my maintenance calories. This could look like consuming 3,600 calories every day. Therefore, that put me in a caloric surplus of 600 calories. Over time, I would gain weight. So, before we move on to what's down here, I just want to go over some key definition or key words, just so you've got a clear understanding of what I'm talking about. So firstly, a calorie is just simply a unit of energy. It's not made up of physical matter, it's just simply a unit of energy. Just like you measure speed in miles per hour, it's the same principle, okay? So calorie deficit can also be used interchangeably with an energy deficit. Why? It's just because they're the same thing. Calorie is a unit of energy, so calorie deficit can also be known as an energy deficit. Now in part 2 of the video, you'll hear me use energy a lot more, so that's why I just want you to get clear on the terminology that I'm using there, okay? So, as mentioned, for you to lose weight or lose fat, you need to be placed in a calorie deficit. Now that can be achieved in 2 ways. A, eat less food, what we just discussed, so reduce your calorie intake. And B, increase your energy expenditure, which is just a fancy term for saying increase your activity level. For example, you go for a run, a bike ride, swimming, it doesn't matter what it is, it's just you need to increase your activity level to create a calorie deficit, okay? So, moving on, I'm going to discuss some fat loss diets and methods, some popular diets and methods that are used in order to help people lose weight, okay? So firstly, we have keto or ketogenic diet, which is basically where someone will follow a diet that has very low carbohydrate intake. Now, is there anything superior about keto? No, nothing really. The point is that if you remove carbohydrates from your diet, you're removing a big macronutrient source. Therefore, you're going to create a calorie deficit, and over time, you're going to lose weight. However, people who do follow keto do think it's fairly superior because typically speaking, they will lose weight quicker, and this is generally down to losing water weight. For every gram of carbohydrates you intake, your body roughly stores about 3 grams of water. So when you remove carbs or follow a low carb diet, you tend to lose water weight very quickly. So that would give the impression that you're losing body fat quickly when it is just water weight. However, obviously, if you are following a keto diet over time and you are successful in creating a calorie deficit, you will lose weight, okay? So next, we have Paleo, which is also known as clean eating. I think it become fairly popular within the CrossFit industry, but I think a lot of bodybuilders and other athletes are following it. Now, I personally do like following a paleo diet or clean eating, just because generally speaking, eating lean meats and whole grain foods generally just make me feel better. Now, there's also a benefit to this because whole grain foods and lean meats tend to be less calorie dense. Therefore, you can eat a lot more of them and you feel more satiated, versus processed foods, which are more calorie dense, meaning you eat less but you're actually taking in more calories overall. There's nothing superior about paleo, it just means that cleaner foods tend to have less calories in, therefore you can consume more of them before hitting your daily caloric requirement. Obviously, if you're eating lots of processed foods, you're going to hit your daily requirement very quickly, or find it easier to eat out of a calorie deficit or eat over your maintenance calories and end up gaining weight, okay? So next we have intermittent fasting, which is basically eating within a certain time frame. For example, I could get up in the morning, skip breakfast and not eat till 12 o'clock. Now, there's nothing superior about this. The reason why this diet works for losing fat is just you've narrowed the time frame in which you're eating in, so you're basically just restricting your calories or getting your calories in a shorter time frame. And by skipping a meal, you could arguably say you've missed out on 300 to 500 calories, or even more in some cases for some people. So by doing that, by definition, you create a calorie deficit, given that you don't eat over your required amount of calories during the time frame that you are allowed to eat, okay? So nothing fancy about intermittent fasting, you just basically reduce the time frame in which you eat, therefore skipping a meal or two, which can reduce the calories, put in the calorie deficit, therefore over time you're going to lose weight, okay? So next, we have fasting, which is pretty similar to intermittent fasting. However, I tend to look at it within a calorie restriction over a longer duration of time. Typically, people will fast over a day or two. So it obviously goes without saying, if you're not consuming food for a day or two, of course, you're going to create quite a large deficit. Therefore, over time, you're going to lose weight, okay? So next, we have juicing. Now, this is a pretty fucking stupid one, but I have put it on there because I know there's a lot of people marketing juicing diets out there. Now, in my opinion, I think they're stupid because, of course, you're going to lose weight because you're going to create a massive deficit if you're just consuming juice all day. But there becomes another problem too. A, it's not going to be satiating, so juice is not really going to fill you up. Therefore, you're going to have a really hard time trying to stick to that diet over a duration of time. So I'm not a fan of juicing at all. And the other problem you get with juicing is the whole idea of losing body fat. You want to try and maintain as much lean body mass as possible, okay? Now, in order to do that, you need to have a fairly high protein intake. Now, if you're drinking juice all day, to get your required daily protein intake will become very difficult. Therefore, yes, you will lose body weight or you'll lose fat, but you also will sacrifice lean body mass as a result. Now, you really want to avoid doing that because I think people seem to underestimate how important lean body mass is in terms of just you feeling young and healthy and being functional. So the whole idea of dieting to lose body fat is you want to try and maintain your muscle mass, your lean body mass, okay? Now, if you're following the juicing diet, that's going to be incredibly difficult to do so, okay? So you want to avoid that at all costs, really, in my opinion. Anyway, moving on. So let's talk about diet methods. So we have cardio. Cardio is obviously a popular method in the aid of fat loss. Now, the problem is people tend to link in running directly with fat loss. Now, running directly will not cause fat loss, but it's a tool to create a deficit. Now, what I mean by that is you could have someone who runs once a week for 20 minutes, but they're in a calorie deficit, they're going to lose weight. On the flip side of that, you could have someone who runs 5 times a week for an hour and lose no weight if they're not in a calorie deficit, okay? So they could have burnt 500 calories from that run each day. If they eat them calories back and they're not in a calorie deficit, they're simply not going to lose weight. Cardio is simply just a tool to lose weight. It's not directly linked with losing weight, if that makes sense, okay? And next, we have calorie counting. Again, people seem to make the association that counting calories will make you lose weight. But the act of counting calories will simply not make you lose weight. It's just a tool or a method to keep track of your calories. So every time you eat something, you keep track of it, and then it makes it easier for you to hit your caloric requirement for the day. But the act of calorie count itself will not make you lose weight. Being in a calorie deficit will make you lose weight. So obviously what I'm saying is you could calorie count all day long, but if you've consumed over your maintenance calories, you're not going to lose weight, are you? So it's just something else to keep in mind, that it's just a tool to lose weight. It's not directly linked with losing weight. Moving on to fat loss myths. There's a lot of myths out there in today's society on how to lose weight or what causes you to gain weight. So here are the top 5 that I commonly hear. So let's just kind of break them down and explain why they're myths or bullshit. So firstly, carbs make you fat. Now this is incorrect. It doesn't matter. There's been countless studies out there which show it doesn't matter what macronutrients you consume, you're going to lose weight as long as you're in a calorie deficit. So if you're in a calorie deficit, it doesn't matter what macronutrients you consume. For example, I could eat donuts all day, but if I'm still in a calorie deficit, I'm going to lose weight. Now, do I recommend that? No, of course I don't, because you're not going to get sufficient amount of protein from there, and you're going to quickly eat up your daily caloric requirements very quickly if you used to do that. Therefore, not leaving you feeling satiated. So that would be very difficult because you're going to spend the whole day feeling hungry. So yeah, carbs in a whole do not make you fat. Fat makes you fat. Now it seems logical that fat makes you fat because the word fat's in it, but again, it's not true. Simply, like I just said, it doesn't matter what macronutrients you consume, as long as you're in a calorie deficit, you'll lose weight. Sugar makes you fat. Again, this is simply not true. Now, I can understand why people think it's true, because a lot of people who are obese or overweight tend to consume a lot of sugar. And this doesn't mean that sugar makes you fat, but again, obviously foods that are high in sugar and salts tend to be more calorie dense, therefore they're a lot easier to overeat. So people who eat a lot of sugary and salty foods will tend to overeat their calories. Now, by doing that, of course, they're going to gain weight. But it's not sugar itself that makes you gain weight, it's the act of over-consuming your calories, which does. Running burns fat. Okay, so I've discussed that down here when talking about cardio. Running obviously doesn't directly burn fat, but it's just a method in order to burn fat. So how does it work? Well, let's say my maintenance calories are 3,000 a day. If I go for a run every day and burn 600 calories on that run, I'm creating a caloric deficit of 600 calories, therefore I'm going to lose weight. However, if I eat them 600 calories back, I'm going to be back at maintenance, therefore I'm not going to lose weight. So running itself will not directly make you burn weight, but it's a tool that can be used to help speed up the process, okay? So faster cardio is superior for fat loss. Again, this is a false claim. Faster cardio will not make you lose fat. Now, I think people seem to think it does, because when you're fasted and do cardio, your body does tap into your fat stores and uses that as energy versus carbohydrates. However, this doesn't matter, because as you go on throughout your rest of the day, your body will actually compensate and use more carbohydrates as a fuel source as the day goes on. And the thing which obviously governs fat loss as a whole is being in a calorie deficit. So it doesn't matter if you're doing faster cardio or not, you're not going to burn fat quicker, because the thing that governs fat loss is obviously being in a calorie deficit, okay? Great, so that's part 1 wrapped up. And make sure you stay tuned for part 2 of the video, where we're going to talk about breaking plateaus, how to prevent them, and energy balance.